Antoine Nessralla, how are you, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, Cam? We're live. Here we are.
We're live, brother. What's going on?
I came back from Boston a couple days ago. If my voice comes in kind of hoarse from time to time, that's because I was seeing AC/DC at Foxborough Gillette Stadium. So
Shit. How was that?
it was phenomenal. Which I know, they're Australian band. I don't know if you're a fan, but they were my first time seeing them, and Brian Johnson's 77, Angus Young is 70 or maybe 71, whatever, and I think his nephew, replaced Malcolm because Malcolm passed away in like 2017, and so Stevie is doing rhythm, and then I forget who they have that's playing like bass and drums. It's not Cliff or Paul Rudd. But they were phenomenal. What a show. What a show. I've seen the Stones, saw them last year. Mm-hmm. Saw The Who at UBS Arena. I'm also I know I'm talking like classic rock. I'm seeing Kendrick on Friday.
Oh, wow.
At MetLife. Saw Joey Badass at, what is the place? I don't know. It's near Hell's Kitchen. So I've seen old school rappers, Rakim, Eric B., and Tyler, the Creator.
Good, man.
But in terms of shows, AC/DC it's up there in terms of live performances that I've seen. I've seen Chris Rock, Bill Burr, Louis C.K. across all live performances. I mean, AC/DC, the Stones were phenomenal, especially at the age of Mick Jagger's 80, and so. Anywho,
it's amazing how these guys just keep going.
Yeah, it's a feat. It's a feat. When I saw Chris Rock at Madison, I've seen him at Mohegan Sun when he was doing the tour that led up to his special Tambourine, and then I saw him do the co-headlining tour with Kevin Hart. They co-headlined a bunch of the Barclays Center, Madison Square Garden. But it was for his tour that led up to Selective Outrage. Mm-hmm. And Chappelle opened up the show, and then it was Chris Rock, and then it was Kevin Hart. But Chris Rock, as just a live performer, especially that night and the night that I saw him, it's like a feat. It was
I've heard he's incredible.
Yeah, it was. If you ever have the chance to see him live, not it's cool to see him down at the Cellar or whatever. I got to see Louis this past November at a one-off, quiet secret show off the beaten path of Boston, and it was very much a workout of probably what he's doing now that he's on tour. So it's vastly different than seeing him obviously at Madison Square Garden when I got to see him do the live show that eventually became what I think he called the special Live at the Dolby. Seeing a lot of live performances. So going back to the voice, if it cuts out or whatever, comes off, it's because, AC/DC came out and they were, thunder.
That's awesome. Was that their opening song?
The opening song was If You Want Blood, You Got It. And they just came out swinging. Then it was Back in Black. And then I think it was Thunderstruck. Wow. Hell's Bells. Yeah.
So how long is their set?
So the show?
Yeah.
It was 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
They're playing the whole time? No.
Wow. They had one opening band. It was called The Pretty Reckless, which I found out the lead singer of that was Cindy Lou Who from she's the actress that played Cindy Lou Who in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey film, that she eventually became, I guess she's done acting and is now a metal rock. I don't know if you call it metal, but definitely a rock singer. And but they played same thing with the Stones. There was no hey, how you guys, it's just song after song after song after song, and very incredible feat at their age.
It's amazing. Damn.
Yeah.
And you think about it, these guys would not have lived healthy lives. The majority of their life, especially their adult life, they probably would have been partying, taking drugs, drinking, smoking.
Yeah, going out every night,
I wonder what they're doing now if they're all sober now.
Probably after the show, probably going home, having a cup of tea and going to bed. You're that was a nice time. Off to Pittsburgh, I guess.
So you were in Boston?
Yeah, was in Boston.
Are you from there?
Yeah, originally from Massachusetts. Lived outside the city, for my whole life. Moved to the city, and like when I was like, I don't know, 2017, 2016. Was living in Brookline, Allston area, which is kind of like, I guess not Boston proper or whatever, but it's part of Boston. And yeah, I was living there. And then in the middle of the pandemic, moved to, Brooklyn. And now I'm in Manhattan living in Hell's Kitchen. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
What's Hell's Kitchen like?
It's nice. It's a great neighborhood. Love it. I'm there. The running joke that I have when I tell people, because I'm living in Hell's Kitchen. I'm just any day now. Someone's gonna be like, he's paying what? Get him out of here.
You got a deal?
Yeah.
Did you get a COVID deal?
No. It was just the landlord. The landlord and all that. They just want someone that's gonna take care of the place, that's not gonna mess it up and all that stuff. So. Yeah.
You got the deal of a century.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Lucky bugger.
Yeah. Enjoying it. It's a great neighborhood. Yeah.
So you've been traveling a fair bit for comedy. You've been doing a few festivals and stuff out and about, haven't you?
Yeah. Was up in Boston earlier in April doing Boston Comedy Festival.
Was it good?
It was good. It was a comedy competition. So I got knocked out. But definitely a good learning experience. It was a good time. Had a phenomenal set. I'm not gonna lie.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's good when you know it too.
Yeah. It was a great time. And I will admit, like going in, it was I was in the Laughing Buddha Festival, but I found out about Boston Comedy Festival before Laughing Buddha that I got got into it, and so the night of the show, kind of went in. They had a bunch of cameras set up. Like they had like 2 cameras dead center stage, then 2 cameras off to the right, 2 cameras off to the left. And for a second, that freaked me out. It was just like, there's a lot of cameras here. I'm like, I thought we're just here. We're just gonna do our set and see who moves on. And I wasn't expecting such a production, especially for like night 1. But like, yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Damn, that's cool.
Yeah. Definitely will consider maybe doing it again. I don't know if I'm going to do it again or apply to it next year or this, because unless they change it, but they'll have like, you can submit, I think from end of October, middle of October to beginning of December. So I might skip. So that would be for 2026. I might skip for 2026 and maybe do it again for 2027, just because after going through it, I have a better sense of like type of material, that I could bring to the table. Not saying that any of the material was bad, but like, there were some aspects where I was like, okay, just a different type of material. If you want to go into it, I can go into it.
I'm interested.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know, by the way, I didn't know how, like, in terms of the podcast, I wasn't sure, like, how nitty gritty we want to get into it.
Let's get into
it. Okay. Just like, looking back at my set, the majority of my set was more cleaner jokes and structurally very, set up punchline. But I like to do a variety of things. I like to, I have like a little bit of a story in the beginning, then do a couple of one-liners, but they all kind of fit into like a nice piece. So it would be kind of like a bit, but like each joke in like the bit, each joke could stand on its own. But I tell them back to back. And I like to do kind of variety of jokes between like clean jokes and then kind of escalate it to some more dirtier jokes or something that might cross the line. And just in terms of like, festival wise, this is my first time doing it. You're kind of like some of the other folks that were there have done it before, and there's judges and everything, and they kind of know everyone. So I'm like the more newer guy on the block, so to speak. And just some of the jokes that were more than like on the dirty side, I might have, looking back, probably, even though they got laughs and they were good, I would next time probably switch them out. Not to say like that's not like a representation, like all the jokes that I kind of do, because I like to do a variety of things, is like the comedy I like to do and kind of like myself. Like this is like me. I used to kind of like be in like these are the types of jokes I tell. And then I've kind of was like, I would rather have a variety and a variety of ways to tell them.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like that's more, as like an audience member, it's more, I feel like more interesting. It keeps you locked in. You don't really know where the next thing's going to go. You don't really know what the next subject is going to be. One thing, you might be talking about cooking in one aspect, and then the next thing I might be talking about banking. And then the next thing is like myself, a Middle Eastern, whatever. Some might be dirty, some might be clean. So yeah, but that's been like a thing I've been trying to work on the last couple of years, is kind of have that variety. And yeah.
No, nice, man. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I love your comedy style. I think I wouldn't have you on here if I didn't think you have really funny. And I like your jokes. And yeah, you do say that you have a mixed background. So one of your parents is from the middle.
Both parents. I'm Lebanese.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both parents are from Lebanon. They
Yeah.
immigrated here. 80s, in the 80s. And
So you're first generation.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. Born in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And they run, I've kind of talked about this on stage. They have a farm stand, greenhouses. So I grew up working in that.
Oh, really?
And yeah. Flowers, Christmas trees, all that, all the seasonal stuff. So grew up, and then, during the summer they have like a produce stand. Like when I was working, in it and working with them and all that, it was very much like a stand. It was like open air, it wasn't like closed in. Now it's like a store. It's like a regular, it's air conditioned. Before it was not air conditioned. It would be like the middle of July and I'm 15 years old just sweating, cash registering somebody, whatever, their tomatoes. So, but yeah, all good stuff. But yeah, so background wise,
Yeah. And then how did you then get to New York, and then did you get into comedy in New York?
Started in Boston.
Ah, right.
Yeah. Before stand up, I used to do improv.
Ah.
And did improv back in college. That's when I first kind of got into like comedy, performing, and stuff. Was way back in college. Friend of mine, he did improv in high school. I met him at college, and long story. Kind of just, I'll shorten it up. Yeah. But
we got time, bro.
All right,
flesh it out.
So yeah, he was getting into improv. He kind of brought me in, and then I kind of was learning that, because improv, is I mean again from when at first I thought it was one thing, and it's not what folks tend to think it is. Improv very much. Character, like you're a character. You're not. The aim isn't to tell like jokes, so to speak. Whereas a stand-up, you're going up, you're by yourself, you're telling jokes. Whereas for improv, you're there with another. You're there with another character, and you're here to build a scene. And the laughter will come through the interactions of the two characters that you're making up. Kind of as it goes on, the laughter will come from that. Hopefully, but as whereas a stand-up, you rehearse these jokes night after night after night, and then you take them to fresh ears, and then you kind of tell them in a way that it's like I'm just coming. I don't even know if folks even like have that in mind when you go up on stage, like in front of in front of an audience, like, oh yeah, this is the first time they're hearing it. Kind of like I'm gonna tell it like it's the first time I'm telling it, so to speak. So. So yeah, did improv. Then after college, didn't do anything, and was kind of working a corporate job. And there was Improv Asylum, which is like the big improv, like what would you want to call it? the big improv like troupe, or not troupe, but it's like the big improv like thing in Boston. Organization. Yeah. Thank you.
You are.
Coffee's starting to hit. And they had like a class structure, went through the classes, auditioned a few times for like the house team, didn't get in, and then
so there's like auditions for teams and stuff?
Yeah. Well, for Improv Asylum there was.
Okay.
I don't know if they I don't know what their thing is now. I assume it's probably still the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, did that, and then I didn't get into a team, and I went through all like the 6 levels. Had pretty good auditions, and then I was like, I was sitting on I won't forget, sitting on my roommate's couch. That the dude that brought me into the whole improv thing, he was like, well, why don't you try stand up? And at that point I thought about it. I've always thought about doing stand up, but never really did it, because I don't know, one time I looked up, I don't know, this is gonna sound so stupid, but like when I was like 17, I was like looking up like how does a comic, like how does a stand up, like, because up until that point, before I was 17, I would watch like Chris Rock specials or whatever, and he's just going and going. You're like, how does this guy come up with this? And you find out, oh, he writes it all and everything, and you're oh. And I don't know, I read somewhere like, to be a really great stand-up, you have to be a really great writer. And I'm like, at English class, I'm getting like a C. I'm like, I'm not a writer. What do I know? I can't write anything. So let's let a decade go by. And let me just sit on, my friends go, why don't you try to, I can't write anything. And then whatever, I walked away from that, and then like 3 days later, I was like, I'm going to go do it. I knew where kind of like the open mics were in Boston. And I was like, I'm just going to go to one. Went to one, did the whole, didn't tell anybody, that whole, didn't just went to it and told a story about this time I was in the Caribbean or whatever with the friend that I was living with a friend who was one of my roommates. I was like living in Boston with like three of the folks, and it was getting laughs. And
what was the story?
Oh, it's
can you tell it?
In a second.
You still use it? Yeah, keep going.
But the thing I always like knew about stand-up, which was like the cardinal rule, the one rule. There's like no rules, but the one rule that I was like always aware of, like as I kind of like looked into comedy and stand-up and stuff, is you don't run the light. They go, you do whatever you want, say whatever you want, you just don't run the light. You see that light, everyone will respect you. If you run that light, no one's gonna. This is like my first, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm gonna follow the rule. I'm gonna, So I'm up there telling the story, and it's getting laughs. And I get the light, and I didn't get to the end of it, so I kind of like was like, all right, guys, I got the light. I guess I got to get out of here. And I kind of like walked off stage, and everyone. And this was like, as opposed to like, I know some mics here have a bunch of folk, like a bunch of like people that show up. At the time, in like for Boston comedy, there would be like 60 people, like 60 comics. Like some of the mics would have like 60 or so folks.
Whoa!
And you had to get there early, and there's like one open mic that. Like still to now we'll get like 60 folks, but like at the time it would be like in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It's called Comedy Hell at the Comedy Studio. And they start at like 7 and it goes until like 11:30. And so got the light. I was like, all right, guys, I'll come back, another time and tell you the rest of the story. And everyone collectively sighed, and I was like, oh my god, everyone was like listening. I was like, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And then just kind of like, went off to the side, and the host went up and he was like, oh, you could at least finish the story. I was like, what? I thought I was supposed to follow the light. You told me to get off stage. It's like, it doesn't matter. You could have just at least wrapped it up. We're all, I was like, all right, whatever. I'll come back next week.
You asshole.
Yeah. So yeah. Then after that went kind of like on at this point, not knowing like comedy wise that you had to kind of like do it like every night, kind of go in like once a week, and very much figuring it out. And then there was a point where, like when I was living in Boston, I was like, oh, you have to do this like every night, multiple times a night. So kind of went on that kind of like structure, and pandemic hit, and the opportunity to move down here showed up, moved down here, and it like in like 2020, like September or so, or early 2021. Yeah. And it was all, obviously everything was shut down. And so a lot of the mics were at parks, rooftops, subway platforms, 86th Street, Q stop.
That's
in front of the who was that? Velvet Underground. Is it Chuck? I don't know. In front of that portrait. Yeah. And then, and then again, not sure how nitty gritty we want to get into it. And then, as things kind of opened back up, doing mics, and then kind of like getting in wherever I could with like whether it's like barking or trying to do spots at clubs.
Yeah. How was the scene through COVID when you were doing it in like parks and stuff like that? Was
small? Okay. Oh yeah, in here, it was like probably. I would if I was to take a guess, probably like we're obviously we're talking like open mic, scene, the amateur scene, the lower end scene or whatever.
Yeah.
I would say there was probably like a consistent 40 folks that you would you'd go from, that would either be in the parks in Brooklyn or Central Park, or showing up to obviously not 40 at every single time, but like you'd see like about the same faces.
It really shrunk.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, listen, and those were the folks that I saw like out and about. Obviously the scene is huge, but like
it's huge now. I mean, it probably was prior to that as well.
Yeah. But it was maybe 40, 60, something like that.
Wow.
Something like that. And then there was like one spot when they like allowed, because things were like shut down, you couldn't go in. When they slowly started to allow folks to go back in, there was like one basement that was like of like a bar that you could, they had like a running, like every hour, they were running a mic there, on the hour, every hour. And you would see, different folks at that point, different folks started to come back, and you see different faces. And then that kind of went away for a little bit, because I think they if I remember correctly, things shut down again. And then when things kind of reopened back up, a bunch of different faces started to show up. And the park mics and rooftop mics, if I remember correctly, I mean, they went on when things were like kind of open for a lot longer than I thought they would probably still, were still going to happen. But
were they getting an audience?
At the parks?
Yeah.
There was a showing. There were a few. I mean, the mics. There. So when the open mics were happening in the parks, I mean, other clubs started to like run a show. If I remember correctly, they ran like a show at like in Central Park. Like it might have been Stand Up New York or something like that. They would have like a section of the park, and they would have like comics go up and perform. I think Mark Norman has like little clips on his YouTube of like performing at like in like Central Park and stuff. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
What a time.
Yeah. That was a crazy time.
Yeah.
The subway platform, that was when, because in the winter it was or not the winter, but in the summer and stuff, you'd be out like Washington Square Park. You'd be at the 110th, Street, Central Park, that area. You'd be on some rooftop in Brooklyn. And then, but when it got cold, there were, certain mics that would still happen, and it would be like snowy. Certain mics that would still happen or try to still happen in the park. But like, then it became like the 86th Street Q stop. And that when that happened, I was like, maybe I should just stay home tonight. Yeah. Maybe I should. Yeah, you're on like the mezzanine, because it's like 2 levels. You're like on the top level, and some folks are whatever, they're coming home, they're coming off the subway, and you're there, and there's like, 15 comics standing off by the side, and you're there with a microphone, and
on the platform.
No, so not the downstairs, on the upstairs.
Yeah.
You're on the.
I hear.
You're on the you're in the upper. You're on the upstairs area
before you walk down onto the platform.
Before you walk downstairs, and people are coming in and out, and they're hearing parts of jokes, and they're hearing parts of things, and it's like, oh man, this is cringy.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like, we all whenever we kind of talked about it, doing it, we all kind of related it to, what is it, like elevated running, or how runners, what they run like at higher altitudes to be able to perform better, when they go for a marathon. It was very much like that. It was like, but here we are talking about comedy or
That's
whatever.
Crazy. The guy, you got to give it to those guys that were organizing those mics on.
Oh yeah,
what a commitment to the craft.
100%. Yeah, I showed up.
It's crazy.
I wasn't posting about this or show up here or whatever. I was just rolling through. But yeah.
Imagine that though. You're getting off work and you're like, oh, there's an open mic on my platform.
Yeah. Folks hearing different things like, what did you say? Yeah. We
you would have had no no audience just stick around for a whole show.
Some people, no. I mean, sometimes. I mean, it was very.
Because you're standing, I'm guessing everyone's standing. There wouldn't be any seats.
Everyone's standing.
Yeah.
Some folks, whatever, might like crouch or whatever, but you're like everyone's standing, and as people were passing by, they might pop in and just kind of like listen to what you're saying, and they might laugh, or they might hear you say something ridiculous, or like, what did you just say? Like, what? And then they turn over and then they, okay, these guys are comics. They're trying to, tell jokes or whatever. They realize you're not a full blown crazy person.
Yeah.
Because what the old joke is like, well, what separates us from, crazy people is the microphone or whatever. It's like, yeah, well, when you're on the subway platform, hold on to the microphone.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Crazy times. That's cool that you got to experience that.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. It was hard. I'm not not to say like this isn't hard. But
it's all hindsight now, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, even up at like the Carl Schurz Park, like there was like the staircase there. People would stay. Talking about like folks coming in, as people were kind of like that's on the Upper East Side. Carl Schurz Park, great park by the way, very nice, beautiful.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out to the park. Shout out to if you're looking to bring a date somewhere, you have a nice walk, see the water. You're on the east side, so you got the water right there. You can look over to Queens.
Beautiful.
But there was like a staircase that the comics would be at the bottom, and folks would sit and watch. And it would be an open mic. And sometimes I think when it gained popularity, folks would kind of like run a show there. But I mean, you'd have like all ages. Like kids like sitting there, and you're kind of like, all right, well, here's the joke.
Let's
or whatever.
go.
Yeah.
So how did it work for their mic and speaker? Like were they
portable? Everyone was bringing portable mics.
Okay.
Yeah. The folks that would run it, they would have a portable mic.
But they work. Did that work okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Portable mic. Wireless mic, I think, and the person that would run it would physically bring it.
Wow.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, and then bring it all the way home and stuff. So like, again,
good on these guys. That is crazy. Yeah, commitment to the craft.
Yes,
well done.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Although I'm glad I wasn't here for that. It sounds awful.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
It sounds awful. Yeah. So tell me about that story.
Oh,
on your first open mic, can you, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh man, I don't know. Hold on, let me. You
don't have to.
Yeah, I the thing is, I kind of remember it, but I don't want to like tell it, and it's gonna be kind of long and windy, and there's gonna be some parts where I could just cut out. I haven't told the story in a while. Yeah, it's stupid.
I want to know.
It's stupid. Another time.
All right. Yeah, so then you made the decision to then jump into jump into the open mics, and then once you did that first time, you just kept going. You basically just kept going. Because you've been doing it for quite a while now.
A little bit.
You're coming on 4 or 5 years, aren't you?
A little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, I don't know where you kind of like factor in like the pandemic when everything stopped and stuff.
It's a little hard
like,
with that. Yeah.
I would say consistently doing it since like late 2018, early 2019. Mm-hmm. So yeah, coming up to like 5, 6-ish years.
Nice.
And started in Boston, and yeah, there was the the first couple months, like the first 6 or 8 months, where I was kind of like going once a week, and just the first time it was a fun time, telling the story, everyone's listening, and thereafter came the series of bombings. Week after week, and you're like, oh man, maybe I should just kind of like stop. But you kind of have like a little laugh here, a little laugh there, or whatever. But it was like not good. And then it wasn't until like this guy started a mic in the North End, and I don't know. I was just because at the same time that I was like doing the open mics, trying to write material, and the big thing, which I still, I'll be honest, we want to get into the nitty gritty of like getting better and stuff, is obviously recording yourself, but going back and listening to it. That is so hard. I still
so hard.
Yes, and I try. I've like the last couple of years, I've been like making a bigger effort to sit down and listen to my sets, and like I have.
Do you do audio or video?
So for shows, it will be video. For mics, it will be audio.
Yeah.
And I I have a notebook where, regardless of shows or mics, it's my kind of like where I'm going. And like tonight, I'm going to be doing a couple mics. Tomorrow I'm doing a show. I'll write out my set list for it and stuff. And I try to keep that, unless it's newer stuff, unless it's newer material, I'll bring that with me on stage. But I try to keep that off stage. I try to keep all that off stage, so that, again, you're trying to gear up for, if you're doing a spot, you got to remember everything. And if you don't remember it, I try not to rely on my notebook and everything. But, going back and then next to it, having like in red pen, I, listened or watched it. And I've been trying, like last year and the year before that, I've been trying to go through and as I've been doing, as you do them, because I do have like a backlog of like audio files and video files of stuff that I haven't rewatched. And I did watch one, like I have like one of my first shows that I did way back in Boston. I kind of found it and I looked at I watched the first 15 seconds. I was like, no, I'm not going to watch this.
Yeah.
Because this is, because you see how much better you've gotten. And to kind of go back and watch that again is like, ugh, this is painful.
It's hard.
It's hard. But so I try to maintain that I'm listening to my sets and watching my sets, and keeping track of that. And the biggest thing that I kind of tell myself is that if I've, regardless of especially at a mic or whatever, for a show, I know the material I'm doing, and I try not to like stray too far off of it. I might, riff something for a show, but usually for mics and stuff, I'll have what I've written, and then I might like riff or whatever, as you kind of like get loosey-goosey and stuff with it while you're on stage. But I do say to myself, like, if I've made everyone here listen to this, I should be able to listen to it as well. If I'm going to make everyone sit here for 5 minutes and it's just bomb city and there's no real punchline, I better sit here and listen to this and come up with something funny so that the next time I kind of come through, I have something, I can bring something to the table.
That's interesting. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. If I'm going to make it, because everyone, the view of open mics are, oh, this is awful, whatever it is. Sometimes there is that view and they can be tough and stuff. But yeah, I try to like be good on that, because if you do that, for me at least, I go back and listen to something where it's getting nothing. I'll try, more times than not, something funny will pop in my head to try for the next time, and more times than not, it will eventually kind of grow to be a joke that might fall into the set. And then I may cut something else out that I used to do because it just doesn't vibe with me anymore. It's not like me, if that makes sense. So yeah, the show stuff does kind of like, it's kind of like an accordion where, you know, whatever I do have a certain amount of time I can do, but like the stuff I would want to like do on like a important show or stuff might be you know, whatever. If I'm being asked to fill 10 minutes, I can do the 10 minutes. If I'm being asked to like do whatever 15 minutes, I can do that. But if I'm being like, if I'm asked to do like 8, you know, I will, depending on the show and stuff, there may be some jokes I just kind of like, I'm not going to do this one because it's you know what I mean? Does that make sense? It's not really.
Yeah.
It's stupid, and I've kind of grown past that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I've noticed you write a lot. You've always got your notebook. You're always like going over your notebook a lot.
Yeah.
What's your process and you know, what's your routine and how do you get your bits?
Yeah, it varies. It varies.
Yeah.
Sometimes, because I used to be very much sit down with a legal pad and write, or you know, at the computer and write, and I'll still do that. Not as much, and I should do that if I'm going to be honest. And then there's other times where something just pops in my head, like an idea, and I'll write that word down or that thing, or you know, type it on my phone or whatever, and then I'll go up on stage and just kind of talk about it, because there are some things where if I write it out and then kind of recite it, it doesn't really, it's too wordy and stuff, and I miss the point of like what I'm trying to aim for. So there are some jokes that originate from just like an idea, and I'll go up with, I don't know how I'm going to say it. I'm just going to kind of talk about it and then go back and listen and write what worked and kind of like consolidate that. That's like the big thing, is listening back, and it's hard.
It's really hard. I don't know if people that don't do comedy and listen to this, I don't know how to describe it. It's like watching yourself, a video of yourself like tripping over in front of the girl you like.
Yeah.
You know, and just watching it over and over. Like it's such a weird thing to explain, but watching yourself and listening to yourself perform, it hurts.
Yeah.
It hits you somewhere deep inside your soul that makes you feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like someone's just come and pulled the blankets off your bed and you're sleeping there naked and it's very cold.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. But, you know, I've found that by doing it, you know, I'm not as, you know, this year it's been kind of, I have been listening to most of it, but yeah, trying to stay on top of it is hard, because you do so many spots, and it's like, Jesus, like, you know, you might have like 4 or 5 minute recordings to listen to, and that's 20 minutes. So, but it is definitely part of the process. And the last thing that kind of pops up regarding material is like, sometimes a joke does just pop in my head, and I will write it out, and I will say it as I wrote it verbatim, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes I'll try and mess around with it. So those are the 3 different ways that I try to, you know, things kind of come up material wise for me. Like those are the 3 different avenues: is sitting down, just writing, free form writing, and sometimes with a legal pad. Something I've been trying to do is go back to have like a sheet of paper and then bullet point it, or whatever, 1 through 20, and then just kind of come up with some one-liners, even if they're bad. And sometimes 1 or 2 out of the 20 will be things that will work, and you're like, okay, this is like a thing. This can work. Most the other 18 are just like nothing. And then the other things are sometimes it's like a scenario or a story that like I'll just kind of see it or whatever, it'll kind of like pop up, and I'll write that word down, and then I'll go up on stage and just kind of talk it out. And sometimes there's a punchline, sometimes there isn't. And then the last is like just the jokes that kind of pop up, or like in conversation, like the series of words that whatever, I'll be like, okay, I got to write that down, and that's how I have to say it, if that makes sense. So
everyone's got their own way.
Yeah.
It's funny. I find that it's often it's often when you're not trying that the joke will come to you, right? Like you're just walking, or a lot of time for me, it'll be like in like my dream state, or when I'm starting to fall asleep, but I'm not quite there yet. Then I'll get little nippets of wisdom, or crap.
Yeah.
Or at the time you think it's funny, and the next day you're like, nah, it's crappy.
Yeah. I totally feel you on that. It's definitely just like, it's in those states, whether it's about to fall asleep or taking a shower or whatever, or like on the way to work. Yeah. Things will pop up.
So what is your work? What do you do?
I work for like Christie's auction house, kind of like right now doing like I'm not like a lawyer, but in their legal department, in their compliance department, like anti-money laundering background checks for folks. Yeah.
Is that auction houses in like they auction people's goods and like cars and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, like art and stuff like Christie's. It's like Sotheby's.
I do.
So they're like their competitor.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah. Interesting. What did you study at university?
I went to school for criminal justice and business management.
Really? And what was the decision like making process at 17 to be like, I want to study this?
Yeah.
Criminal justice.
Yeah.
And business. Like,
yeah.
It's so weird what we get into at that age, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense at all. And then you go to college and you're like, oh man, I like improv and radio and all this other stuff. What am I doing? Or you're like in your fourth year, you're about to graduate. Like, what did I just do for the last 3 years?
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Were you, what do you call it? Did you stay on campus? Like, were you on the...
Yep. Yeah.
Were you in a frat?
No. The school I went to was very small, and no frat or anything like that. But yeah, lived in dorms, and and then after moved back home for a couple of years, and then moved out, and then now down here. What is
the college life? What is the college life like when you've gone from like the home dynamic to coming to every day? You know, your mum's making you breakfast or lunch, and then you're coming home for family dinners and stuff. And then you, at 18 or 17, you're like moved out to these dorms. You're exposed to everything.
Yeah,
that must be wild.
Yeah, I mean, wait. Did you stay? Did you?
I didn't go to university.
Oh, you didn't go to?
No.
Okay.
No, so I was straight into the workforce, but I moved out of home pretty early.
Okay.
But I didn't. Yeah, it was kind of more of an organic build up.
Okay.
Whereas you've just gone. Pff.
Yeah, I mean, for myself though, I'll say like my parents were very much like, you got to figure things out, and like. So like when I moved out or moved to college, I kind of had like my stuff more together. Like I was doing my own laundry. Like I don't know, it was just kind of very natural for me. The big thing was like I'm not at home. You know what I mean? Like I'm here with a bunch of folks that I kind of know, and some folks I don't know at all. So that's kind of like, that's cool. Some of us have similar interests, but like in terms of like having your shit together and stuff like that. For me at least, just because, working and stuff and just having that responsibility, it was a lot easier. It was a lot easier. Yeah. Yeah. So. And
then were you having to do like part-time work and stuff while you're at college?
Yeah. Yeah. I worked for the, so during like the semesters and stuff, I worked for the college library and stuff, and started off, which is kind of like, I know right now, and sometimes like on stage I might be loud, but like in my 20s I was very much a loud, even more energetic person.
Really?
Than what you kind of probably see on stage as well. Way more. Oh yeah. And when I started working at the library, everyone was like, "Why you're the least library person, the least library, whatever." I'm just gonna make up some words right now. Person ever. What are you doing behind the desk? And then I eventually became like the weekend manager for the library and stuff, where they were like, "Oh, we can trust you. You know how to like make sure everything's getting done." The administrative staff that like are hired by the college or like whatever. So that was pretty cool. And so yeah, that was like my job. That was like kind of my job during school, and then during the summer breaks and stuff, I would either kind of work at the family business and stuff, or I had like an internship as well. So I do both. Yeah.
And your folks, what made them migrate to the States?
Not
From Sandyland.
Yeah. They migrated just because of opportunity, really, honestly. Yeah. Opportunity and just getting out of there just because it wasn't, not a lot of opportunity and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sick how you grew up on like a little bit of a farm. And
then,
like actually selling all their own stuff.
Yeah. And farm, I use that term, no, there weren't like any like livestock or anything like that. And in terms of like farm, we had like a lot of the things we grew were in greenhouses. So not so much the sense of like there were a bunch of fields, even though I do have family members that have that kind of setup, like a more traditional way of like farming and stuff that you may think of. In terms of like what I grew up in, a day to day, it was very much greenhouses, and then in terms of getting produce for the farm stand, we'd go up to in New England. There's this thing called the New England Produce Market, which is the second largest produce distributor in the country. The first, I believe, is in Hunts Point here in the Bronx. And so like all the different like farmers and stuff, obviously that surround, like, so you got Jersey, the Garden State, all the lettuce that's grown there. Obviously, they have probably their own distribution center, which I don't know what it's called, but they probably sell a bunch of it out of Hunts Point. And then, they send tractor trailers up to like New England. And so we would go up there 2:00 in the morning and to like, wholesale buy stuff that you would then kind of retail sell.
Ah.
Yeah,
smart.
And then we would sell, the things that we would grow would be mainly tomatoes and cucumbers. Those were the things that we.
It's very Lebanese of you.
Yes, very Lebanese, very Middle Eastern.
Yeah, very Middle Eastern.
Yes. Tomatoes, the little mini cukes that you don't have to like skin or anything.
Yeah,
you can kind of just eat them whole, and then tomatoes. Those were the things that we would, anything extra that we didn't sell out front, we'd package them up and then kind of wholesale sell them to a distributor or whatever.
Have you been back to Lebanon? Like, did you grow up?
I went twice.
Okay.
Once, like 2008, and then the second was 2012. Right. Around there.
And do you speak Lebanese?
I understand Arabic way more than like I can speak it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I can understand it way more, and really, I understand the dialect that is spoken in Lebanon and kind of like the area that my parents grew up in, because that's what they would speak at home. Whereas folks that are in Egypt, their dialect and stuff regarding speaking Arabic would be different. And there is like a traditional, and I'm blanking on the word. There's like a uniformed version of like Arabic, if I'm not mistaken, that's that folks can speak to from different countries. Yeah. To understand each other and communicate and all that stuff, like what they say on the news, but like it's different. So, yeah. And by the way, if anyone watches this and I get it wrong, I'm sorry.
Fuck you. There's no wrong here, brother.
Yeah. I can just see, no, you got it wrong. And someone's going to be like, what do you know? And all this, you have a Boston accent and you're going to be talking about the Middle Eastern cultures and all this. All right, whatever. Just go ahead. Sure, you're right. What do I know? I don't know anything.
I don't know anything either. Let's just promise we know nothing.
Nothing.
Don't come here for facts. What countries in that region speak Arabic?
What, like Egypt,
Lebanon,
Lebanon, Syria, Jordan.
All right, it's a lot.
What's south of Jordan? I'm blanking on the others, but then on top of so you got Egypt, which is in Africa, right? And then there's the other countries that go west of there. I think Morocco is one of them, and maybe one other. So that would be part of the Middle East. The countries that sit on top of Africa. Saudi Arabia?
About the Saudis?
Yeah, Saudi Arabia,
Iraq?
Sudan, Iraq, I believe. But then Iran, they speak. I think it's Farsi, which is like Persian or something like that. Right. I don't know. But it's not Arabic. That's not Arabic.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think. Maybe like Afghanistan.
Did you get a chance to travel those countries where you've been around?
No, just So the 2 times that I went, the first time it was just direct right over. Like we just flew from here. Well, not direct right over, meaning we didn't go anywhere else. We left the States, switched flights like in Germany, and then flew to Lebanon. And then the second time, like I was like, all right, if I'm gonna go on this trip, we're because when we get there, I already knew like, all right, it's gonna be a trip, but really let's go see the rest of the family type of thing. So I was very much like, can we just spend 4 days somewhere else before we get there? And we spent like 4 days, 4 days in like Rome. And then we got, boarded another plane and went over. And that was really cool seeing Rome. But like other countries unreal. Other countries in that area, no, haven't.
Did you check out the Colosseum while you're in Rome?
Oh yeah. So the Colosseum, the Sistine Chapel, which I know all the popes are there,
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah.
They used to be able to flood the Colosseum.
Yep.
So they could have ships and stuff. I was like,
yeah, ship battles.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
How hard would it be for us to do that now, to mimic that now? It would be like, we could do it.
Yeah, we probably could do it.
It wouldn't last that long.
Yeah.
It'd be all rusted out and...
Yeah, and the cleanup, you have to figure you have two, right? They would flood it to then have like a battle between ships and stuff. So
yeah, how they got the ships in there?
How do you get the ships in there? How do you get them out? I assume getting them out, they're probably destroyed at that point. But like maybe the one that's not destroyed, I don't know. It's pretty crazy.
It's so hard to imagine. There's so much history which I find wild. I've spoken this about a few times, but the discovery that the pyramids in Egypt are going to have these cylindrical columns underneath. There's 8 columns underneath the main pyramid.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. I'm waiting for them to say, oh, yeah, people made that.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it any day now. When they see it, they're like, oh, yeah, it was a whole group of folks that did that. Probably. I don't know.
There's gonna have to be. I struggle to believe how we did it. Anything's possible.
Anything's possible, yeah. But at the same time, it's like you're telling me, what is it? Folks with, sticks and stones or whatever, dug those holes and dropped those cylinders. Which also, I know or we've seen like the outside structure, like what intricacies that those 8 cylinders have. You know what I mean?
And they go through the water table as well. The water table is like 50 feet below the pyramid. So that's like...
Okay. Yeah. How do you figure that? I don't know.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I've definitely like looked into all that and all the theories of like, what the pyramids could have been, which it's seeming more likely is that, and I'm sure you probably heard of this, especially if you've kind of seen what you've seen, is that they were power plants or something like that. I don't know if you've, yeah.
But what kind of power? That's because it can't be like power as we know it. It would be my understanding. Like it can't be electricity.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have like copper wires and what need do they have for electricity? Like what sort of power were they generating?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. But then again, they said that the top of the pyramids had a gold cap. And that conducts electricity. So, I don't know. That or I know sound has a big part of it as well. So I don't know how you get power through sound. So.
Yeah, and then what do they do with it? Like, what do they do with the power? Or if it was electricity, what were they doing with it? Like, what was the need for it?
Yeah. Who knows?
It's a UFO charging station.
Yeah. You thought water in the Colosseum was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, if like those 3 pyramids were like a power plant and they were that, the pyramids are massive, and then whatever these structures underneath them are massive. Like, what is the amount of power or energy that they're producing? Like obviously, what was the need for the power? But like, how much power could these produce? Could it be ejected into like outer space and stuff? You know what I mean? Like, Yeah, I don't know if I'm
No, I
conveying.
love
Like,
it.
I don't know if I'm
No,
conveying.
I know exactly
like,
what you're
like. How
saying.
much power?
Yeah.
Like, are these like more powerful? Would it be more powerful than like a nuclear reactor? You know what I mean?
I mean, it seems like the theory is that it's tapping into the Earth's power, right? If that's even the right word.
And
So
not just the Earth, but also the moon plays a part in generating in getting it. So I don't know how far down
Let's
the
get
rabbit
into
hole you
it.
want to get into this, but there, from what I've seen and read, and obviously what do I haven't been there, I haven't seen it, but like my understanding is like because there's waterbeds underneath the pyramids. The moon plays a part in powering, or to have powered, if they were power plants, the pyramids.
Wow.
Because of the how the moon plays a part with tides and all that stuff, and then something to do with the harmonic resonance of like the earth. What is it, like G sharp or something like that? This is out of my wheelhouse. But like, yeah. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have.
Okay.
I have.
There is a great video. I don't know if you've checked out this channel. It's called the Y Files. Quick shout out. Great channel. And they have a great but this video is now like 3 years old. So it doesn't have any of the knowledge of like the structures underneath them.
Oh man, those guys are going to blow their mind now, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, but they kind of go into like the different natural methods that like the way that it's set up and the different types of like the way that it's set up with the different types of resources or so around it, the different like natural like methods which included the moon to have powered them. So, yeah.
It's fucking crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, what do you think?
Do you think aliens exist?
Do I think aliens exist?
Like, do you think the theory that it's it was built by aliens? Do you think there's any merit in that?
Maybe, but like aliens in the sense of like, beings from another planet. You know what I mean? Like. Obviously, we see things. Obviously, there folks have reported seeing things in the skies today, right? And those things, folks have reported seeing them way back when. So, did they come from somewhere else? I don't know. I'm the more you kind of like read about it and learn about it, I think, maybe originally they came from somewhere else, right? But I feel like the things that you see today and maybe in the past, I have a feeling that it's more than likely coming from here, from Earth. Does that make, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there maybe is, I don't know, I've heard this the other day, but like, there's so much of the ocean that we haven't explored. So maybe they're there. I don't know. Maybe they're underground. I don't know. But like, definitely some crazy stuff. Is it crazy? I mean, or is it, a secret part of the government that is more technologically advanced?
I heard the other day, I was watching something and these guys reckon that Hitler wasn't actually in the bunker when he got shot.
Really?
Or when he supposedly got shot. And apparently there was who's the person that checks out your bones when you die? Whatever that name is.
Okay.
The bone dude, the bone doctor. And she, apparently the body that is supposed to be Hitler's was actually a female body.
Was wife or something like that? Was all right.
Could have been. Yeah, I think it was just So they reckon that there was sightings of him in Argentina.
I've heard this as well.
That's wild, isn't it?
That's also crazy. Yeah. The whole thing is crazy.
And apparently the American government knew. Now, I don't know how you can prove that. But I like a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that's crazy. The aliens, the power plants, that's crazy. The whole going to the moon is also like.
Yeah, I was watching something about that yesterday, actually.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think?
Okay, I think we did land on the moon.
Okay.
but why haven't we done it again?
Here's another thing.
Tell me your theory.
I mean, I'm just going to add one other thing to why haven't we done it again? Also, why hasn't another country done it? Because the only astronauts to have landed on the moon were astronauts of the United States.
Truly? No other astronauts?
Give it a Google. Give it a Goog. That only the United States.
Wow.
So, but other countries have landed crafts on the moon.
Okay.
But the only folks, the only astronauts, only human beings to have landed on the moon. Give it a Goog. Give it a Google. Good old Google. Where's Jamie? Jamie, pull that up.
Jamie.
That they were all they were all U.S. astronauts, and they were from like what 1969 to like 1970.
It's crazy. Like, why haven't we done a moon mission in the last decade?
Yeah.
Just to be like, yeah, we can fucking do it.
Or why hasn't another country done it?
Yeah.
Like, you're telling me, China doesn't have the capabilities, but they yet can build a beautiful city such as Shanghai,
Also, what's the point?
Going to the moon?
Yeah, it's just a dead rock. It doesn't, there's nothing there.
I mean, I guess. That's a good point. That's a good point. That, like, what's the point? Some folks have already been there, but,
Do you think we did?
I think we did. I think more than likely we probably did, yeah.
Landed on the moon?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but, we haven't been back. We're the only ones to have done it.
Was it only that that Armstrong? Was it Steve? Who was the guy that landed on the moon? Neil Armstrong, sorry. And someone else.
Yes.
Was it only those?
Bud Aldridge, I think it was.
Bud Aldridge?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it only those guys who ever have been on the moon then?
No. So there were a few other astronauts that landed and have walked on the moon.
Okay.
I think in total, only 12 have landed and walked on the moon. Neil, I believe, was the first.
Okay.
But they were all in that time period of, 68, 69.
So it was over a few missions.
Yes, I think it was 12.
Wow.
12 Apollo or I have to look that up.
I was watching a documentary on the plane about the new space race, which is between it's really now between SpaceX and another company in New Zealand.
Okay.
And the mission is, the objective is for these companies is just to get as many satellites in the sky as possible.
Okay.
Like SpaceX is winning the race. They've got 4,500 satellites now in the sky.
Okay.
But that's wild what's going on there now. And apparently there's been hundreds of smaller companies try to do it, but they've just folded because it's just too expensive and it takes obviously a lot of resources.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that also kind of proves that just to send a satellite into space, sending people up there, it's a lot. So why bother? It
takes these companies years. I mean, there was this one company. It took them 5 years just to get a viable rocket to get it. They did one launch, failed, another launch failed, another launch failed.
Yeah,
just to get into the atmosphere.
Yeah,
or get out of the atmosphere, whatever it is. And it's pretty wild that we have even had that many successful missions that have gone up and even done the moon landing at all.
Yeah.
When these guys can't even get a rocket out.
Yeah. With also technology from the 60s.
Exactly.
And not even because I was kind of thinking of it obviously, when the first mission to land on the moon, that technology obviously wasn't, it couldn't have been 3 months old, right? It had to have been a few years old. So we're talking about mid 60s technology, right? Because you're not going to build something and be okay, you've obviously built it over the course of a few years, to then use it in that year. Obviously, that year's whatever was being made that particular year wasn't what was right. You're right. We're talking about some stuff that was even older than, was it 1969, 1968? So
it blows my mind, man.
Yeah. And then here we are, 2025, and rockets are having a trouble.
They can't even get up at all.
Yeah.
It does definitely make you ask a few questions.
Yes, it definitely does. It definitely does. I mean, listen. It definitely does make you ask a few questions. I mean, is that's a fair thing to ask, don't you think?
Yeah, yes.
You know, you gotta ask a few questions like that. You gotta be like, why is it only U.S. astronauts that have gone up? That have landed. Again, maybe 12. I was gonna take out my phone and Google, but we can save that for after.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
So did you ever think as a kid you'd be getting into comedy and living in New York City? Like, what did you think when you were younger? Did you have any inkling that you were going to be doing what you're doing now?
Man, I feel like living in a city, I don't think I ever thought about living in New York City as a kid, but I definitely thought about living in the city. Definitely wanted to always do that. When I first visited New York City, I was maybe like 16 or so, maybe younger than that, maybe 13. Definitely 13. And I was like, whoa, oh my God, this is crazy. But yeah, I didn't think about living in maybe living in New York City when I was a kid, but in terms of like doing comedy and stuff, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, I liked comedy. One of the first comedy specials I ever saw was the Three Kings of Comedy with Bernie Mac at the end. Like, I saw that when I was like 8, visiting some relatives down in Florida and stuff. It was like my brother, I believe if I remember correctly, he was the one that wanted to see it, and so I saw that. Again, maybe I was like 8, 9. And then after that, saw, came across Chris Rock, Bring the Pain, Bigger and Blacker, Never Scared, and then obviously Kill the Messenger. But by the time I came across Chris Rock, I think Never Scared was the special. So that's like 2014, 2004. And those were like crazy specials. And I that's when I started to be like, all right, how does someone do this? And then the exact like opposite of that, after Chris Rock, I came across like Mitch Hedberg, and I was like, whoa, this is a different style. This is a different style of comedy, And then then it was George Carlin and David. In between, like after Chris Rock, Mitch Hedberg came. I came across George Carlin. Dave Attell, Chappelle, obviously. Chappelle, but even him, I didn't really, like I saw his Killing Them Softly and the other one that I'm blanking on. But yeah, never, I was always interested in it. But the big thing that I liked, the thing that got me into it, really got me into it or got me interested in it is I was sitting, I don't know, at my job in Quincy, Massachusetts, when I was working there, and I was listening to a radio show that was being broadcast. I was listening to it like on some app being broadcast from like Los Angeles. It was a radio station, Real 92.3, and I don't know. They were talking about work and doing the thing that you love, and you should do the thing that you love. And like I was like, what do I love to do? I like to make people laugh. That's what I love to do. That's it.
Yeah.
So I was like, why don't I? That's what brought me back into improv. And then I was like, let me try and get back into that because I really liked doing it in college. And then when that didn't really like pan out or whatever, I was like, yeah, why don't I just do stand up? Why don't I give that a shot? I was like, and when I did it, I was like, I do like doing this. This is really fun, And then that's like, at that point, I knew, at that point before really getting into stand up, I saw Dave Attell live. I saw Jim Jeffries live. I saw who else? Someone else that I'm blanking on.
Dude, they're like my 2 favorite comics.
Yeah, and this was Jim. This was Jim right after he had what was it? I swear to God, alcohol. I'm blanking on the name. It's like his 3rd special or 4th special when he was doing that tour. He came to the Wilbur and. Yeah, so I kind of knew a little bit about stand-up, read that stupid thing a long time ago about you got to be a good writer and all that. I was like, and then really, started to know about like other comics, like, Patrice, and also Burr. Burr was also in that time frame of coming across Bill Burr. But like Patrice, Bob Kelly, and like Dane Cook. I never really got into Dane Cook when he was during his heyday. And yeah, man. I mean, it initially didn't really like. When I was a kid thinking about doing this, it wasn't like a thing. I was like, yeah, I'm going to become a comic. I was like, I'll work at a job doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't. It just finds them in a weird way.
Yeah. I mean, what about yourself? You used to live in Australia.
Yeah. I did it in Australia for a little bit, like on and off for a year and a half or something. But yeah, I discovered it kind of accidentally. Wasn't huge into comedy growing up. I didn't have a comedy household, and we only had one TV between 7 of us. So, but no, it's something that I'm really glad I've found. It just found me.
It was there like what got you to go to open?
I did a course. I did like a weekend course, and then I did a show. And so the first time was amazing, and then every time after that just bombed.
What brought you to the course?
A drunken like pop up on my phone. It was like I was drunk. I was like, oh, what's going on? And this pop up was like, do this course. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, and I did it. And then
boom. That's really cool. Still, that's the thing that kind of hooks you in. Everyone that I've kind of talked to and you meet doing this does have a different way of like getting introduced to it.
Totally. And a lot of the time it's just accidental. It really is, or like. It's just like, all right, I'll give it a go. Or someone will say, you should do this. You should do an open mic. And they're like, oh, I was actually kind of already thinking that. Yeah. And it's like, there's like always been a little bit of energy that pushes people towards it in some way. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely the energy that pushes you to get into it. When again, speaking just, for myself and everything, but like when I got into it, initially doing it, like I was like, very much looking at it of like, I'm going to be a student of this. So the first couple of years, especially in Boston, I wasn't really trying to like put me on your show or, I was very much like looking at what I was kind of doing and being like, man, this person does it differently. This person does it differently. This person's very much different on stage. They got jokes like this. They got jokes like that. And I was very much, very on the shocking side of, doing, a lot of like shock humor and more of the edgy stuff. And, I just, as time has gone on, I've kind of grown, I feel like grown into different ways of telling jokes and stuff. And, but you do definitely kind of like come across like a bunch of different folks. Yeah. Well, man, you're very good. I've really enjoyed watching you. I've seen you at many shows now. Seen you at many mics. You're really funny.
Thank you.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing where you go with this. I'm looking forward to seeing what all the boys around us and girls do, because we're in a good time at the moment in New York. It's exciting. There's a lot of things happening. And the people around us are really talented.
Yeah, I mean the thing about like New York is, and like I'll just say this, like being in Boston, I was there for a couple of years. And I was definitely like studying, so to speak, comedy, like watching specials and just like watching it and getting a better understanding of like how is this person getting a laugh at this line? Like how is that a joke? You know what I mean? Like here's just a line that they're kind of saying and it's like everyone's laughing. I'm like, what? Like what? Like, so I thought like I knew like, oh yeah, I have a better understanding of stand-up. And then I came to New York City and then you see, there's the Brooklyn scene, the Manhattan scene, the scene in Queens, and you see all these different types of comics and their ways of doing it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know anything. Yeah. I didn't know anything. I'm an idiot. Yeah. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm just going to keep working on what I'm doing. What do I know?
I think a lot of people feel like that when they get here. The pressure to write here is so strong as well.
Yeah.
Just to constantly...
Especially, again, and from what I've observed, especially in like Manhattan, is very much how did you write the joke? And then like another scene is very much on the like, what's your vibe? Yeah. I don't really care about like what's your how are you telling it? What's you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's like other parts, not so much in Manhattan, really talking about like the Brooklyn aspect of it, where it's very much like the cadence and your personality. And which I think is like, you know, I try to go to all the different like scenes because there is something that you can definitely learn from it. I felt like one, like, you know, the places in Manhattan that kind of, not so much how you're telling it, but like the more performative part of it, but your writing piece is more like we were just saying, like kind of like how, you know, how it's written is appreciated, and then there's the other parts where it's very much like where I've done like a joke and it's kind of jokey but gets nothing, and it's just, well, you're just telling a joke, and it's kind of like but like that's the job. Am I not doing the job? Yeah, you are, but like I don't like the whole thing.
The vibe's off.
The vibe is off. So also, all right, I should be aware of my vibe, which is, you know, because when you look at like the greats, right, they have a piece of all of that. You know, they have their stage persona, they have their you know, the subjects that they talk about, and the tight writing and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, yeah, you still need that, because at the end of the day, not to go back to like AC/DC and watching like live performances, that's what we do. You know, we're always in front of people, and you gotta learn how to like command the room and command attention and stuff. So it's definitely like it's the thing I love about New York is the I don't want to call it the school aspect, but you do, again, and kind of going back to like listening, like for myself, listening to my sets and stuff, is that you do learn a lot about yourself and kind of like how you kind of present yourself on stage. And like sometimes when things don't work that normally work, it's because I've, you know, fumbled a word. I didn't say it. I didn't really say it. No one really heard me. And then I'm like, oh, that's why no one's laughing. It's because in the setup, they didn't even
pick it up. I hear you.
Yeah, so.
But yeah, man, we better wrap this up. So give everyone your socials.
What's up? All right. What's up? I'm Antoine. You can find me on Instagram at Antoine Nessralla, Antoine Nessralla. And then YouTube, small little YouTube channel. There's like one video up there. You don't even have to watch the video. I just use it for submissions.
We're going to watch it.
Whatever you want to do. Same thing, Antoine Nessralla. Thank you.
Mate, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. Guys, follow Antoine. He's an absolute legend. He's fucking hilarious. Check out his YouTube channel. Follow him on Instagram. Let's keep building this community that we're doing. Dude, thanks for coming on.
Thank you,
It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
See you in the next one, guys.
Later.